Well, I was 17 years old when I enlisted. I came from a family of 9, and my mother died when I was 13, and there was still 5 of us home. So my dad tried to keep it going, but it wasn't working. It was a hard life. We had a farm. Everything we ate came from the farm. For some reason, the Navy hit me. So I asked my dad, I says, would you sign for me? He kind of looked at me and, well, he said, if that's what you want, I'll sign it. So he signed the papers. And there was something about it, I wanted to see the world. And I thought the Navy was the place for it. But it turned out the opposite way. So then I joined the Navy, went to Great Lakes for my training. And then from there, I ended up in DeLand, Florida, in the Air Forces, teaching me a gunner's mate in the Air Force. That wasn't for me. The first time I went up one of those planes to dive, making a pass, I was scared to death. All of a sudden we're going into the pilot, zoom. So then I went into I asked to get out of that part of it. So I went into the gunnery, teaching the gunnery. Well, my commanding officer, a real nice guy. He lived there. We'd go fishing our days off and everything else. And one day I says, I want out of here. No, Harold, you don't want out of here. He said, you'll be here for the whole war. I said, look, I joined the Navy to see the world. No, you stay. Well, he didn't know it. Well, it came to the bulletin board that it needed a gunner's mate in the amphibious corps. I didn't know what that was. So I put it in. About 6 weeks later, I got a notice, and I told him I was leaving. Oh, he had a fit. So I report Pier 9, never forget it, and finally the ship arrived in San Francisco. Well, I'm all excited. I'm looking for a battleship and a destroyer and all of a sudden, LSM-145, that can't be it. I was looking for a battleship, destroyer, or an aircraft carrier. That's what I had pictured, not even thinking anything like an amphibious corps. And to see this little bouncing, I couldn't believe it. So I reported the officer on the deck. Here was an amphibious ship, LSM-145, 206 feet long. So he takes me aboard, shows me where I'd sleep and this and that. Well, you ate and slept in the same department. And so they got us all grouped up, got us food aboard, got us fuel. And I'll never forget, we're headed for Hawaii. And I always got seasick when I was here. And it started to rock. And that Golden Gate Bridge kept disappearing like a fog. I was sick all the way to Pearl Harbor. 11 days it took us, but you had to stand your watch. As soon as we got level water, I was all right. I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble here. Now what am I gonna do? When we were traveling across the ocean, we still had to stand a shift. You might be on the radio, you might be on the radiator. There's no such thing as missing. You always had a shift to work when you're at sea. You just didn't lay there in bed. You got up and you did your job. And there was no such thing, you were sick, you still had to be out there. So we ended up, we were there 3 days, and we practiced we used Maui we went through the whole thing. Our division, land, load up, just like it was hitting the beach. Well, finally we got our orders to leave. We left in a convoy. We left 37 days bouncing across the ocean. And then the captain called us down in his quarters, and he had the maps of Iwo Jima, 3x7. And he said, we've been bombarding it now with the planes for 97 days. The battleships are there, hitting it 3 days before we get there. So he said, we should be there. That's the first time we knew we were going. They had the maps showing where we're going to hit the beach, everything. We needed the air base for the next stop. We needed it. That's why we took it. Well, we're supposed to have been there 3 days. So, along we go. Well, it was rough because when we loaded up with the Marines on top of our men, they slept in the well deck. There's no underneath, right down with, or in the tank, because there's no room for them. See, where we ate, your bunk was right there. You ate and slept in the same room. There was no place to exercise, do nothing. See, before we picked up our troops, we could use the well deck to play basketball or baseball. Well, then we got them, we couldn't do nothing. But see, we carried 6 tanks, a retriever, and a Jeep. And our well was open. The front doors would open, the ramp would come down, and they'd go out on the beach. And that's where we'd leave them. We'd never see them anymore. One thing I'll say, we had good protection. Not once did any of those Japs planes get inside. It was like a screen built around us. We were lucky. None of them ever got to the inside of our screen. See, then when they get the alarm, we turn on our foggers. So it's everything, they couldn't see nothing. Because that's all they have to do is drop a bomb, you were done. See, they had all kinds. They had LSTs, which were transports. That's probably a couple hundred. Not doing the same thing we did, but they were bringing in different things, gasoline, bombs, and all this stuff, food. But they were all, but I would say probably a couple hundred. But see, we had another group, another task force waiting out beyond to head for Okinawa. And I think why we got Iwo Jima, we were bringing some of those men in to help because we were losing so many. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I think we had to bring some of those men in. So it's starting to get a little dawn. You can see these ships pounding that island. Well, the first infantry went in at 9 o'clock. We went in at 9:15. Everything was done by tide, except an emergency. We dropped our anchor as we went in, because we went up on the land. See, we were flat bottom. So the anchor, that would help pull us back off there. That's how we got out. See, the infantry went in, you know, Chris Craft built those little landing ships? The men just went on them, they jumped them. No, that was altogether different. Our men were all in tanks. And they were taken by transport and then loaded into these amphibians they made at Chris Craft. They'd have their gun and that was it. We hit the beach, get out. When we hit the beach, they were already 4 deep. When we opened up our bow, the ramp, we were dropping it right on top of the men. And we were using our own men for foxholes. See, that thing was so fortified, everything was built in. They were up here looking at you, so as you got off the ships, they just killed you. And I'll never forget this one poor guy. He wanted to get on the ship and go with us as we were going to pull out. Well, the officer stood there because I'd been mutiny. I'll never forget, he walked back out of that ramp, he was gone. That was the end of him. Boom. As he went back off the ramp, machine gun just took him down. But it wasn't the officer's fault either. They can't let them start mutiny. See, everything was up on the hill. They could get you, but you couldn't get them. You had to be young. I mean, you were scared. Like these Marines, some of them been through 3, 4 different invasions. And they'd be ride dust because we were all greenbacks all the way across, you know. Oh, this and that. When we hit the beach, he had the same look on his face as I did. Because I think when we took them in, originally, I think there was 10% of them left. Not all died, been wounded, but I think there was only 10% of that division left. The first wave of the Army went in 15 minutes ahead of us. Then we followed with tanks. And then they just kept bringing the men in, shooting all the time. Yeah, they never stopped. But we got there, we couldn't do nothing. The bullets are flying all directions. So they told us hit the deck. You couldn't do anything about it. I'll never forget when the first time when we were told to hit the deck. Well, I went down the well deck. That was lower. When I came back out of there, I didn't have any fingernails. On conscience, I must have been trying to dig into that steel deck for cover. I didn't have no nails left. I must have been trying to dig in there, not even knowing it. That's how frightened you were. But you had to be young, I guess, but still you're scared. And I feel sorry for a lot of these poor guys. To me, it was like flipping a penny. Who goes next? That's what it seemed to me. There was no such thing as a life. That was it. Well, instead of us being there 3 days, we were there 27 days. See, the Marines secure the island. Then the Army comes up, does the mop-up. So we got hit quite a few times. 20 millimeter went right through our fantail. And the boatswain mate that was on the back, he lost his leg.
Yeah, I was on the top deck. I saw the Marines landing there, and I saw some ships got hit, and I saw tanks being blown apart. The Japanese were really shooting shells. There was a lot of opposition. They were firing quite a bit at ships coming in and so forth. They hit us port side, which was the left side of the ship, but above the waterline. I don't remember. I think it's 6 or 7 wounded. But I know one fellow that was with me on the back deck of the ship, and he said, I'm going to get a cigarette. And I said, Dick, can't you see the shells coming in? You can't do that. But he says, yes, I'm going to get a cigarette. And when he went to get his cigarette, he got his left foot blown off, just for a cigarette. But those things happen.
These 20 millimeters and 40 millimeters are all mounted on the side of the hills. The doors are about that thick. And we had a crew, we called them the suicide men. It was their job to go up with portable welders on their back to weld that door shut. Well, the Japs had machine gun nests on each side. Sometimes it would cost 75 men to get one door. They'd open up, out come a gun, go back in, they're on tracks. They welded so they couldn't open it. That's the only way you could do it. When we hit the beach, it was like you went to another world. That's how fast things change. And then when you hit the beach there, and you're dropping the ramp right on top of them, they're dead, most of them. Some of them might have lived, but might have killed them. But they're used for they're using for foxholes, using their own men. Well, you want to try to save yourself. He didn't know what he was doing. He was looking for cover, just like me when I didn't have any nails. I didn't know I was digging into the steel, but I must have been unconscious trying to get in there. I think there's only about 16,000 Japs there. We could never go ashore. We want to get off the ship. We'd be dead with them. And see what they did, there's no way to build a cemetery there. So what they did, they took a bulldozer, they bulldozed it out, put the body in there and put a marker on his head. You've probably seen pictures of that cemetery there. And because we couldn't handle the bodies, no way to handle them. They were killing them so fast. our job in between the 27 days would take gasoline in, ammunition in, take the wounded out to the hospital ship. For 3-4 days you couldn't eat because you were taking men there that their heads all blown, they got all these tubes in them and everything else. And a lot of these men, they were buried at sea. They had a transport there. We'd turn them over to them. They had to shoot. They'd take your hammock, wrap you up in it, put weights in it, and the flag was there. There you go. It wouldn't make you nervous. There's so much blood in the water. These sharks all over the place. And you think, boy, if I fall overboard here, I'm gone. And the hardest part was when they loaded gasoline. It was all in 55-gallon drums. It unloaded off the transport. You never seen anything get unloaded as fast as that. Everybody got there to roll them off the beach. Let's get back out of here. But that was our job, to keep taking everything into it. I'll never forget on that one transport one night we were next to them, and we got an alarm that they were going to attack. Well, it caught fire. Well, bam, we got loose of that thing and got away from it because all this gasoline we had in there, 55-gallon drums, we'd have went with them. But what amazed me back at those days, how things was organized. I mean, when they said we'll hit the 1st Infantry at 9 o'clock, they hit at 9 o'clock. We were told 9:15, we were on the beach at 9:15. You know, way back then, you're talking 70-some years ago. But still, it went on. I was on the beach when they put up the 2nd flag. How they ever did that, I don't know. We had landed, and how they got up there. See, the first one, this fellow put up there and he took rocks to hold it. How they got up there, I don't know. We were making the landing when we looked up there, and there were those guys up there putting the flag up. And here you thought the war was over. It was just starting. Well, finally, we did that for the 27 days. And the day before we were leaving, we got in a typhoon. We were told to pull off the beach. It came just like the ocean went upside down. We'd go down, you look up, there was a prop of another ship. And, you know, it was nothing to be 50 foot high. We were told to pull us out to sea. Otherwise, we'd end up on dry land. So we all had to pull off. What they did, we had a rope. 12 feet in between each man. They'd tie it to it. We had one of the boats that made. The wave came, took him out off the ship, and the next wave came, brought him back in the ship. So they had these lifelines, they call them, 12 feet in between. That's how we were tied to them. And the only thing you can do, you couldn't steer the ship, you just let it bounce around. If you made it, you made it. But you know, I never got seasick after that. Never got seasick. Up to that time, I was sick all the time. But I never got seasick. I don't know what that did to me, but scared it out of me, I guess. So then they sent us always back to California. Napa, California for repairs. We were there 45 days. Then we load up, head all the way back. And this thing just 7 knots, that was about our speed. All the way back. Well, when the war ended, we were headed for Japan. And that's when MacArthur dropped the bomb.
It is Sunday, September 2nd, 1945. The time is 9:05 a.m. The surrender documents by which Japan agrees to lay down arms completely and to obey all Allied orders issued by General MacArthur were printed by the Army on rare parchment. The war is over. Peace is here.
See, there wasn't too much stuff you'd learn Just like we never knew where we were going all this time. Where was Iwo Jima? We didn't know anything about it. We didn't know until that night. That's where we're going, Iwo Jima. That was done after we were at sea. It was a job. You had to do it. And a lot of things in life you don't want to do, but you're stuck with it.